Yo, TCPPA peeps, this is Dan McClanahan, or Dandolph right now. I'm working on my gray beard. But I have a strict policy to only give studio tours to people who have the same first name and last name. Lucky for you, Davey Dave reached out and asked me to give you one. So, this is my studio in downtown Ames, Iowa. Ames is a college town. South of you by about 3 hours. We have Iowa State University, and we have about 30,000 people that live here, so it's not huge, but it's big enough to have stuff to do and small enough that my introvert can thrive. And the first thing you see when you walk into my studio is these pictures of what are now mostly pro athletes. Sorry, Olaf is screaming. Saw Frozen 2 last night with my daughter, and it made me cry. Super dope movie. Here are some client orders ready for pickup later today. Here is where my receptionist would sit if I were to have one, but mostly it's an empty desk that does nothing. Okay, walk in here. This is my viewing room. The windows close so we can project, show people their images, and design things for their walls. This is basically the room where we make our living. I love the table because it's the shape of our logo cut out. My father-in-law made it. And then over here is the corner where we waste away. We have 3 full-time people working here currently. My wife, myself, and our employee. And I've spent more time at that iMac than I care to reminisce about. If you come back here, this is where we do our framing and production and store client orders before they come pick them up. And then, arguably the most important thing in this entire joint, my fridge and my microwave, my snacks. If I don't get my snacks, I get hangry. And if I get hangry, my pictures aren't good. So, you gotta know yourself, you gotta take care of yourself. If you ever get the chance to design a studio, design it how you want it. Make snacks readily available. So this whole downstairs is basically to look impressive and to have meetings and be professional. And it helps a lot because that's not who I am by nature. I'm pretty laid back. And I like to wear sweatpants. My work is about 50% commercial work and 50% portrait work, meaning families, kids, seniors. I'm getting back into weddings now that my kids are growing up a little bit. And 50% commercial work, which is a lot of environmental portraiture, architecture, sometimes conceptual compositing. And this is my home base for all of that. So you'll notice we just went up a creepy old elevator. The studio, so I have a storefront and I have a 3rd floor loft, which is where we are now. There's 10 other businesses and 2 apartments in the building, and it used to be a factory, so it's old and weird. A lot like Nate Peterson, which is why I love it. When you come in here, I'm just joking, Nate. You know that, right? Alright, you got Marky Mark. You got a dressing room on your left, a camera room on your right. I'll show you the dressing room first. I went to this guy's house in Los Angeles and shot his protein powder line marketing materials, and one of my clients stole me that cardboard cutout from a grocery store, and I have it there kind of as an inside joke because all of my seniors' moms grew up during the Marky Mark era and they still have crushes on him, and they come in and they go, "Oh my gosh, he's so hot," and then they like me, so it works to my advantage. Yeah, basic stuff, couch, vanity. This is my wall I started where I make an instax of every shoot. I have the client sign it, stick it on the wall, and that way when I'm feeling down, like I'm not doing anything productive with my life, I can look at the wall and go, oh, I guess I've done a few cool things. So here's the camera room, white brick that I installed. When I first got this, the ceiling was like peeling off and the room was full of junk and it needed a bunch of work. So I put about 10 years worth of love into it. You see over here are my lights, my Paul Buff Einsteins, love them to death, and I've kind of got a texture wall back there. So the texture wall and the white brick wall both serve as big permanent textured backgrounds that I can use for family groups and stuff. And then I've got lots of seamless paper and some prop storage. And that's about it. So when I'm coming up north to hang out with y'all, which I'm very much looking forward to, we're gonna talk about light. And in my 10 years of doing this, let me fix the light on my face. There we go. Speaking of light, I'm putting myself in nice window light so you'll think I'm more attractive than I actually am. We're gonna talk about light because it's the most important thing in our craft. And I've learned that there's a lot more to it than simply memorizing lighting diagrams and all of a sudden, oh, I'm good at light. Because a lighting diagram is made for a specific situation and every situation is different. So, I'm gonna be real with you. This is how I perceive this in my mind. You might think it's weird, but deal with it. I think of light as having the force. So, you're force sensitive, you're starting to feel it, and then all of a sudden you train with Master Yoda, you start to develop your skills, and then eventually, 10 years in, you get to the point where I walk into a space that's ugly, and my job is to make it look good, and I feel where there could be interesting texture if I were to kick it with a backlight, and then where would I have to hide that light so it wouldn't show up in the picture, and then that would dictate where other lights go to make splashes of light and where my main light would go. And it kind of becomes this subconscious thing where you're reverse engineering by feeling. And the only way to get there is to have your mind expanded to what's possible and to do a lot of trial and error and failure, which is something I do daily. So when we come, we're gonna do about half me lecturing to you about my favorite lighting designs and my most successful tricks that I've honed, that I bust out regularly to make a living. And then we're gonna challenge me to shoot for real. I don't know what, I don't know where. It's gonna be kind of commercial themed where we're gonna use a lot of light to transform a space and tether to an iPad so you guys can see what I'm doing and question everything. And hopefully it will make your brains go and your force sensitivity start to tingle just a little bit more. And then you can go home and like, oh, you just picked an X-Wing out of a swamp. Good job. And then soon you'll all be great. So, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see you there.